It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the 7 movies. We've got a lot of films to look at today from August 3rd, 2007, including the latest Bourne film, one of Jason Lee's 2 live-action adaptations of classic animated TV shows, several comedies, some really good, some really bad. One is the follow-up for David Wayne, who did Wet Hot American Summer. Jennifer Lopez... So many Jennifers out there. I almost said Aniston and Lawrence, but Jennifer Lopez and her then husband Mark Anthony in El Cantante, and Anne Hathaway as Jane Austen in a movie. So we have a lot of films to get to here. I'm already wasting your time. Let's go ahead and jump right on into it. And we'll start off with, obviously, the biggest new release of the weekend, Matt Damon as the return of Jason Bourne in The Bourne Ultimatum. So this is the 3rd installment of the Bourne series, in which you have Matt Damon once again returning as Jason Bourne, being brought back out of hiding, this time by a London-based reporter, Simon Ross, who is trying to unveil Operation Blackbriar, an upgrade to Project Treadstone, in a series of newspaper columns. But Bourne sets up a meeting with Ross and realizes instantly they're being scammed. Information from the reporter stirs a new set of memories, and Bourne must ultimately uncover his dark past while staging the company's best efforts in trying to eradicate him. In addition to Joan Allen coming back, as well as Julia Stiles, we have new additions to the team, including David Strathairn joining the cast, as well as Paddy Considine. And yeah, it's another really good movie that really does a good job of wrapping up what was supposed to be the end of the trilogy. Obviously, we've had a couple of other movies since then. One very bad in The Bourne Legacy, and one that's better, but not as good as this is, Jason Bourne, which I like Jason Bourne more than most people do, but I really don't like The Bourne Legacy. As much as I love Jeremy Renner, and as much as I love the Bourne films in general, that one I think is the worst of the worst ones. Just so much in that movie doesn't work at all, but in this movie, everything that made the other 2 movies great gets pushed to the next level. All the action sequences are incredibly well done. The stunt work, very well done. I mean, these movies have great stunt work overall. And it just goes to show what a difference Paul Greengrass brings to the table when he does this movie, because the next film will be directed by the writer of this movie, Tony Gilroy. And yeah, what Paul Greengrass brings to the table is much more important than what we see from Tony Gilroy with the next film. But this film does a very good job of wrapping up the storyline and what was supposed to be the end of the series, but at this point, like, it does a good job of wrapping up Jason Bourne's character, giving him, everything he needs to know about who he really is, on who he really becomes, down the road, is on who he became as the person that we know him as. And yeah, it's a really good film with a lot of great talent all across the board. The writing is top notch, the action, some of the best in the series. Everything about this movie just works incredibly well. There are very few flaws in the film. It's a fantastic movie. I enjoyed every minute of it. I really love this series in general. What more can I say, man? This is a great film. The Bourne Ultimatum. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and check it out, man. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and move on to some of the lesser movies of the weekend. And boy, we're starting off on a high note with this one. Jason Lee starring in Disney's version of Underdog. The crux of the comedy, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this movie feels like a film that was made 10 years ago when Disney was making these god-awful live-action movies. This does not feel like a movie that was made when the studio was trying to get back on track, but lo and behold, this is exactly what we're in here for folks. And that is, of course, Jason Lee starring as the character of Underdog, who is played by a lemon beagle named Leo. And, of course, this is the story about a hound named Shoeshine, from the cartoons, who gets superpowers after a lab accident. When he's adopted by a 15-year-old boy, the two form a bond around them and the shared knowledge that Shoeshine is really Underdog. This should not be a really complicated concept to do in general, but good lord, they just completely destroy that right from the get-go. I didn't even show you Underdog yet, but when Underdog is flying around in the trailers and in the movie, that dog does not look like he wants to be there at all. Like, it's like I remember when Spill.com did the original review for this, and, they made a joke about how the dog looked like he was being abused on set, like the dog is just trying to just take a rest, and all of a sudden he's got this fan in his face, like he doesn't want to be involved in this movie. And they did not do a good job of making that dog look convincing whatsoever. You got Amy Adams in here too, and Brad Garrett doing voices, and the cast also includes Jim Belushi, John Slattery, Patrick Warburton, who him and Peter Dinklage are easily the best thing in the movie. I mean, they're the ones who are at least trying to bring something to the table here. I mean, Peter Dinklage as Simon Bar Sinister is really, really good. That's top-notch stuff there. I mean, he's the only one who's going into this movie with the indication that this is what you're supposed to do with a movie like this. Everything else, just, it doesn't work in general, and this is definitely the worst of the two Jason Lee live-action animated hybrid films he did, because the next one he did would not only be the best of the two, but it'd be the more successful of the two, but that will wait until Christmas, until we delve into that one. But, yeah, this should not have been that difficult to really do, but they somehow did it, and like I said before, this literally does feel like a film that was made around the time when Disney was doing stupid stuff like, you know, Meet the Deedles, Mr. Magoo, I'll Be Home for Christmas, My Favorite Martian, these terrible 90s live-action comedies. This feels like a film that should be in that area, but no, this was made in 2007, and yeah, it does not work at all, and it's such a shame, too, because there could be a good idea for a movie here. I mean, you could have done something like the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, which I know a lot of people didn't like, but I found that movie great fun overall. I mean, that's a good, fun movie. That is pretty much what Rocky and Bullwinkle was all about. Even Dudley Do-Right, I think, does a better job of adapting the source material to live action than this movie does. And even that wasn't a great movie, but it certainly kicks the crap out of this. But yeah, Underdog is not a great film overall, and yeah, it's not much of a surprise, and it killed the career of director Frederick Duchow, who did Quest for Camelot and then Racing Stripes, which I thought Racing Stripes was actually a pretty good movie, but yeah, Underdog, not so much. He hasn't directed a film since then. I don't even think he's really done anything since then. Has he? Let me see. I don't think he has, but I did one movie, The Crostons. I have no idea what that is, but yeah, he hasn't really done much since then, and if anything at all, but yeah, that's Underdog for you. Bad film, just a missed opportunity on so many levels. So, let's get to a good comedy that came out this weekend, and this is really a great underrated comedy we're about to delve into here. Andy Samberg starring in Hot Rod. I absolutely love this movie. Andy Samberg stars as an amateur, accident-prone stuntman, Rod Kimball, whose stepfather, played by Ian McShane, continuously mocks and disrespects him. When Frank becomes ill, Rod raises money for his heart operation by executing his largest stunt yet. You also have a cast that includes Yorma Taccone, Will Arnett as the sort of antagonist in the movie, Isla Fisher as Rod's love interest, Danny McBride, Bill Hader, Sissy Spacek. This movie is really, really damn good. I mean, this is probably one of the funniest movies I saw in that decade. I think I said it was my second favorite comedy of the decade. It's that funny. And it is really absurd as funny. This is basically the equivalent to a live action version of Family Guy, except you don't have anybody going like, you think that's bad. Remember the time when, nobody's really starting those things up. Things just happen for the sake of happening in this movie, and the movie knows it's incredibly stupid. The movie knows how silly it is, and it's just like, we do not care whatsoever. We are going along with the ride for this, and boy, do they ever. Andy Samberg is great in this movie. This was around that time when, he became famous for the digital shorts on Saturday Night Live. It's funny, this was originally intended to be a Will Ferrell vehicle, but that project never came around, and yeah, Will Ferrell, I don't think could have made this movie work overall, but, Lorne Michaels gave these guys an opportunity to make this film, and it really does deliver everything you can ask for and then some. It's an incredibly funny movie. It is a ridiculously stupid film that just works on so many levels. I mean, I was one of those people that when this came out, I was defending it right from the beginning. I love the hell out of this movie so much. I mean, it's funny, it's stupid, it's got one of the great soundtracks ever with a bunch of classic songs from the 80s and 90s. I mean, my favorite scene in the whole movie is the big moment when they're going out to go to the thing where he's doing the stunt, and the song, You're the Voice starts singing, and everybody starts singing along, and everybody's getting behind them, and then all of a sudden, just for no reason whatsoever, a riot breaks out. People are looting buildings around the area. people just start beating the crap out of each other. And then while this is going on, the main characters are just like, what the hell that just happened? I mean, everyone was happy at first, and all of a sudden, this violence broke out. And it's just like, this reminded me so much of, like, old school comedy like Wayne's World. Like, this was like Wayne's World caliber comedy, except taken to a whole nother level. And yeah, it's a really damn good movie. I loved every single moment of it. I love it. It's a great comedy, one of my favorite comedies of all time. Just a brilliantly funny movie. If you love absurdist, over-the-top, stupid comedy, this is the movie for you. And it just made me so disappointed when these guys made another movie about 10 years later with Popstar and Never Stop, Never Stopping. I went into that movie with high expectations because of how much I loved this film. And I'm one of the few people that really does not like that movie. I think it's not as fun. It's nowhere near as funny as that movie is, as this movie is. Like, jokes aren't as clever as they are here. I think Universal really got more involved in this film. Paramount, I think, gave them an opportunity to do whatever the hell they wanted to do with it because they knew that this was going to make its. This was going to find an audience in some way, shape, or form, whether it be in theaters or with a cult following. Because this has obviously gotten a cult following over the years. I mean, it's a really good movie, man. And like I said, it's just such a shame that the movie that they made after this, Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping, was such a disappointment. But we'll delve more into that another time. But Hot Rod, absolute brilliance, man. I love this movie so much. I can't recommend this one enough. If you have not seen Hot Rod, do yourself a favor and check it out. It is funny. It's brilliant. I loved every minute of it. One of my favorite films of the decade. One of my favorite comedies of the decade, I should say. So, we had a good comedy. Now let's talk about a bad comedy. Let's go ahead and talk about Bratz. Yes, Bratz, the movie that Avi Arad hyped up as X-Men for teenage girls. You think I'm kidding, but I'm not. I mean, this is, of course, based off of the popular dolls, and it was actually the first live action film of this to do these dolls. That sounds really horrible, but what I'm trying to say is that there was a TV series, there was an animated series that came before this, and you have the story revolving around this group of 4 teenage girls, their origins of their friendship, and the social pyramid that tries to make the Bratz conform to archetype high school cliques. I think I'm pronouncing this right. Archetypal, Archetypal. Basically, high school cliques. Let's just call it that. But yeah, the plot of this movie is really stupid, and just the fact that this one girl who like controls everything in this cafeteria where people have to sit and all that, they don't like this idea that. Because she thinks that because she's rich and popular and the student body president, that means everybody has to belong to a clique and everyone has to follow her order. Basically, this is a young Karen in the making. I mean, this is pretty much that. And when these 4 girls are just like, yeah, we're not going to do that. She spends the next 3 years of her life in high school trying to destroy their friendship. That is the plot of this whole movie. Or at least that's what a thread of the plot of this movie is, because, good lord, this movie just goes all over the map with its storylines. Nothing about this movie makes any sense whatsoever. The girls have no friendship chemistry whatsoever. It's amazing that out of all the people that are in this group of friends, only one of them went on to have a legitimate career after this, and that's Logan Browning, who you've seen her in a bunch of movies, most notably the TV series Dear White People, and of course I literally just had the title and I completely forgot it. The movie with Allison Williams in it. What? The Perfection, that's what it was. I mean, I just literally had it in my brain, and then just as I was about to say it, it completely left it. But I guess Janelle Parrish has been on Pretty Little Liars, so there is a couple of names that did go on to bigger things. And then you've got the rest of the cast, which includes Tom Hanks' son, Chet Hanks. I don't think I need to say more about his career. Kadeem Hardison's in here, Lainey Kazan. And then, of course, how can I not mention the legend that is John Voight in this movie, who plays not only the father of the main evil girl in the movie, but he's the principal, but he's also the bumbling principal with a terrible prosthetic nose. I mean, this nose looks absolutely horrible. I mean, good lord, John Voight, what are you doing in this movie? Just in general, what are you doing in this film? I mean, are you really paying off it? Do you really need to help pay off those it's the grandkids that Angelina Jolie keeps getting? I mean, I completely lost what I was going to tell with that joke. Bottom line here, what I'm trying to say here is that Bratz is fucking terrible. I mean, that's really all I'm trying to tell you with this movie. This movie is absolutely awful. This movie sucks. This movie is absolutely awful in general. This thing should not be on a big screen whatsoever, but they spent $20 million on this movie to bring it to the big screen, and it wasn't worth it? No. No. At any other studio, this would have been a direct-to-video release, but not at Lionsgate, because we need to churn out the family fare to make people forget that we're the studio that Jigsaw built. We're the house that Jigsaw built. Yeah, I'm completely running out of things to say about this movie. What more do I even need to say about this? It's fucking Bratz. It sucks. You should avoid it like the plague. I don't care if it's not made for me. Even the movie the target audience this movie is made for, they should have no reason to see this movie whatsoever. So, yeah. So, let's get back to some good movies again. Let's go to... so bad, it's so bad I can't even talk. Bottom line, Jennifer Lopez, Mark Anthony, El Cantante. But this is the story about salsa singer Hector Lavoe, played by Mark Anthony, as told from the perspective of his wife, of course played by Jennifer Lopez, who looks back from 2002. And in the early 1960s, Hector arrives in New York from Ponce, Puerto Rico, and success comes quickly. The more he grew as an artist, Pucci says, the more he sank as a person. It's a tale of talent, creating salsa with Willie Colon, with the Fania All-Stars as a soloist, and a story of disintegration fueled by drugs, alcohol, partying, depression. Pucci's voice, proud and querulous. Again, I think I'm saying this right. Querulous. I think that's how you say it. Dominates off stage as Hector does on stage. And this is a film that got a pretty bad rap when it came out. It was not a critical success, but it did decent numbers at the box office overall, but nothing too significant. I mean, it's not a bad movie, honestly. It's a film that it has a lot of things about it I do really like. This is directed by the same person who did the Wesley Snipes movie Sugar Hill from 1994, which, not a bad movie in general, but this is a film I actually did kind of enjoy. I actually do like it. It's a very different film from Jennifer Lopez, who at this point was mostly known for romantic comedies. It's nice seeing her in a more dramatic performance, like we saw her in Selena 10 years prior. And Mark Anthony's pretty good as Laveau. I mean, this is a really good film. Yeah, it kind of falls into the same old predictable musical biopic territory, but you could tell that with this movie, they were trying to tell the authentic story of it. They weren't trying to make a safe and marketable movie, and I think it works very well because of that. I think they work off each other very well here. Anthony and Lopez, they are playing a very good couple in here. I mean, it's one of the few examples where you work with your spouse and you turn out actually a pretty decent project overall. I actually like this movie more than most people do. I don't think it's a great film overall, but it's definitely a film that I think is much better than people on. And honestly, it is one of the better musical biopics I've seen, honestly, because it isn't afraid to tell you the true story about what was going on in this guy's life. Like, it doesn't sugarcoat it. It doesn't do it because, we have to make this for a mainstream audience. No, this is a very independent film, and it works very well because everybody in here is giving it their all. I really like this film. I actually like it more than most people do. Highly recommend checking it out. If you want to see Jennifer Lopez in a more dramatic performance that plays to her strengths as an actress, this definitely works very well. And Mark Anthony's pretty good too, so I highly recommend El Cantante. With that said, let's go ahead and see what Anne Hathaway's up to as she plays Jane Austen. Toy Boat. I am having trouble speaking tonight. Let's see what Anne Hathaway can do as Jane Austen in Becoming Jane. So this is basically the Jane Austen biopic, and it depicts the early life of Austen, played by Hathaway, and her lasting love for Thomas Langlois Lefroy, played by James McAvoy. And it's a film that is partly based off of the book Becoming Jane Austen by John Hunter Spence, and who was also hired as a historical consultant. And the film was pieced together with some known facts about Austen into a coherent story. And the idea was to attempt to weave together what we know about Austen's world. This is according to one of the writers of the movie, Kevin Hood, and about Austen's work from her books and letters, and believe Austen's personal life was the inspiration for Pride and Prejudice. And film itself is pretty good. Anne Hathaway, I think, really does give a really good performance overall in the film. But yeah, her accent can be a little bit distracting at times. It's a movie that clearly is trying to go for Oscar consideration. But overall, I didn't think it was that bad of a movie. But it doesn't really do anything to really sustain itself as anything that spectacular overall. Not much more to really say about this one, honestly. I saw it once, thought it was okay. I've never really had any true intentions on going back to watch it overall. I guess it's not a bad movie in general, but honestly, I kind of expected a little bit more, especially with Anne Hathaway in the lead of it. But like I said, she's probably one of the stronger things about the movie in general. That's about it. That's pretty much all I can say about this one. It's been a while since I've seen it, and like I said, it's a film that I think I watched it once, and it was just kind of like, it was alright. That's pretty much what I can say about the movie. It's pretty much alright, so... So that is Becoming Jane. So let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here. David Wayne's follow-up to Wet Hot American Summer, the anthology film, The 10. So as you can see, the story is an anthology comedy with stories based off of all 10 of the commandments, all introduced by Paul Rudd, who plays a character in one of these stories. You have one where a man survives a fall from a plane and his fiancée marries someone else before falling in love with a marionette. That's Winona Ryder in this movie. A surgeon causes a patient's death and in prison tries to choose his mate. A woman encounters Jesus in Mexico and later confronts her husband on the Sabbath. Twins and their mother reflect on fatherhood. Covetous neighbors miss a chance to be heroes. And Jeff's love triangle with Jeff, Gretchen, and Liz, played by Jessica Alba, and Famke Janssen, plays out between each story. And in the end, all the characters join in singing that it's all about love. That is literally the plot synopsis of this movie. And you know, like I said, this is David Wayne's first movie he had done since Wet Hot American Summer, which is a very funny movie. And this time he brings on a bunch of different people. Some of them from Wet Hot American Summer. You've got Paul Rudd. You've got, who else was in there? Of course, you got the guys from The State, Rob Corddry, Ken Marino. You have a cast that also includes the aforementioned Winona Ryder, Famke Janssen, Jessica Alba, Anna Brody's in here, Oliver Platt, Gretchen Mol, Liev Schreiber, Janine Garofalo, Tom Lennon, of course, you know, a lot of the guys from The State and Reno 911 in this movie. H. John Benjamin is in the movie. John Hamm is in here. Rashida Jones. So there's a lot of talent in the movie. But, kind of like with most anthology movies, like, most specifically stuff like, Amazon Women on the Moon, most of the sketches don't usually hit as well as the other ones do. There's some good ones here and there, but as far as the film itself goes, it does not work all the way through. It's not like Kentucky Fried Movie, which I think that one is probably the best one of these anthology comedies in general. I mean, there's some good ones here and there. Like, I liked the first one they do with Anna Brody and Winona Ryder. I like Winona Ryder, what she does in this movie, because she has a couple of centerpiece ones in here. The first one and then the one where she falls in love with the puppet is really good. The one with Paul Rudd, where he has this moral dilemma between, his wife Famke Janssen and this mistress played by Jessica Alba. That's a good one. There's a couple of good ones here and there. The one with H. John Benjamin as the animated rhinoceros is really funny. Every other one, though, it's more hit and miss. Like, everything is not as good as most of the stuff in here is good, but there's definitely ones where it's not as good as it really should be. And there's a lot of good mini stories here and there, but like I said, it's more missed than hit at times, and it's a film where I was a little bit disappointed by it, but I can't really say it's a bad movie overall. It's an interesting concept. Sometimes you could see the effort being put in there, but for the most part, my overall reaction to the movie is, it's not bad, not great, but definitely very cluttered and very hit and miss on a number of different parts of the movie. So overall, there's some good stuff here and there, but not enough for me to say it's worth a recommendation. If you want to watch it, mostly because of the fact that it's made by the same guys that made Wet Hot American Summer, by all means, go ahead and do it. But for me personally, it's more middling. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just okay. So that's the 10. And so with all of that said, we're going to wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. And the next time we meet, we've got 4 more big summer movies, including Rush Hour 3 with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker once again. Matthew Vaughn's Stardust, which includes Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Claire Danes in the cast. Another sequel that I know everybody's been waiting for, Daddy Day Camp. The sequel that's so bad that Eddie Murphy didn't want to do it, and they had to get Cuba Gooding Jr. to do it. And We'll delve into that one as we go along here, but we also have Skinwalkers, so we have 4 films to look at next time around. We'll delve into all of them coming up on tomorrow's show. But with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see more videos like this, please go ahead and hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification button, and the bell, because you get updates on when new videos come out, and we do post here every day. With all that said, I'm off. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.